First of all, I just want to say welcome, Rabbi Tamar Manasseh.
Thank you. I still haven't gotten used to that, but thanks.
Yes. And welcome to you, Brad, for coming and actually making this film. So thank you so much for bringing this to us. I'll ask my first question to Brad, because then I'm going to spend a lot of time talking to you, Rabbi. So Brad, actually, I should introduce myself. My name is Koach Baruch Frazier, and I am a rabbinical student at the Reconstructionist Rabbinical College, and this Rat Hashem, I will graduate on May 19th.
Or it could be 13 years.
It could be 13 years. It's been 6 for me, so. So Brad, I have a question. What did you learn as you were making this film? What did you learn about yourself? What did you learn about the Jewish people? It's a big question, but I want to know, what were your takeaways and your learnings from doing this film?
That's such a huge question.
Went straight to the SAT.
I mean, seriously. I feel like I would have to write a book about everything I learned.
Okay, give us 3 things.
First of all, I think I learned that I had more privilege than I had realized, and that I had lived a way more sheltered life than I had been willing to admit even to myself. So that's one. The second thing that I learned is how much fun it is being on the block on the south side of Chicago on 75th and Stewart. And the third thing that I learned is that Tamar Manasseh is probably one of the most incredible people I've ever met in my life. And that's not in any particular order.
That's all right. Rabbi, you said Jewing is a way of life. What do you do different that makes you a Jew? It can't just be because you said you're one.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about that.
You can. Being a Jew is hard. It is. And if it's not hard, you ain't doing it right. I mean, it's not just what you can't eat. It's not, no, you can't go out on this night or during this time. You can't bathe right now. You can't wear this. You can't do, it's not just that, right? It's the discipline that it takes to do all those things, right? But then, like, everybody just thinks it's like 10 commandments, but it's like 630 of them.
Okay.
And it's like nobody else knows that but Jews. And it's 613. It is, but
Yeah.
they're the unspoken ones too.
That's right.
But it is constantly living in pursuit of living up to those every day. Because you know there's more expected of you than other people. Maybe if I didn't know there were 613, I would only concentrate on the 10 and my life would be a lot less stressful. But it's not. It's not. And it's not just tikkun olam. It's the whole idea of tzedakah and what it means to give, what charity really means, right? It's not just about sitting back and writing a check, although I do really like checks. Mask, I'm going to give you guys the mailing address, but it's not just about that. It's about actually showing up and being there for the people when they need you. It's about actually sitting and talking to them and knowing them and letting them into your life so they'll let you into theirs. It's a giving of yourself. It's not just a giving of, it's a giving of all you have, not just some of what you have, it's everything. So it can completely drain you, or it can fill you up. And I hope that we all one day are completely drained because we've just given everything we've had.
Maybe so. Maybe so. Thank you. I have a question, I think, for both of you, and but it starts with a quote that you said. Rabbi, you said, when we become just American and lose our Jewish identity, that's when we become our worst selves. And I want us to expound on that a little bit. How we are losing that Jewish identity. How did we lose it? How do we lean back into it? How do we become our best selves?
You got 20 minutes.
We got all night, right?
When they gonna turn the lights out?
Okay, they're gonna bring the food down here. Maybe we give them in a few minutes.
You want to start this? I think this is pretty good. I mean, you know I'm gonna do this for a while. So.
Just go.
But
I'll interrupt you if need be.
Thank you. But I think that we lost it. There is this expectation of something that we had once, but we don't have anymore. And it's because we became more American than Jewish. So right now, everybody is looking for this alliance that blacks and Jews had during the Civil Rights Movement. That's dead. It's never coming back. That's done. You have to build something new because the people are so different now than they were before. We don't have a shared experience anymore. Because what I think a lot of people don't realize is that while so many Jewish kids were off marching with Dr. King and being freedom riders through the South, their parents were being allowed to pack up and move off the South and West sides of Chicago and move to the suburbs that they couldn't go into before, that they couldn't live in before. They were being accepted by the white establishment because they had to break up that coalition. And what's the best way to do that in America? Drive a wedge between these two groups. Yeah. So we're going to keep these people on the south side and on the west side of Chicago. And the rest of them, your friends can move out. And then some of those places where they go will be sundown towns. So your black friends can't come and visit unless they want to pose as the help. But otherwise, black people aren't going there. And the thing is, we never thought about that. I've heard of instances where people were off marching. They were down south in Alabama. When they left, they lived on the east side of Chicago, on the southeast side. When they came back, their families lived in Skokie. That's how quickly it happened. That's how quick the divide happened. So when you left and you got to be a part of the white establishment, it just pushed us down even lower on the rung, on the social ladder. And the thing about the social and racial hierarchy in America, it's almost like the agreement is we got to keep black people at the bottom. Yeah. And the thing was, I don't think the parents of those people who moved to the suburbs ever really told their kids why they did it. But guess what? Black people told their kids about what happened. Yeah. And so now you have a generation of kids, a generation of, I'm not even going to say young people because it's even in my generation. And I mean, I'd like to think I'm a young person, but I'm not, right?
I mean, you're young.
No, not when I got to stand up.
Oh, I know.
The way my knees, no.
Yes.
But it is like, even I know the story about how there were Jews here and then they left. Yeah. They left. They didn't want to live around us. They didn't want to, it changed the story completely from those people who were allies during the Civil Rights Movement. And it's this nostalgia that people have. It's this, these are these warm and fuzzy stories that they tell about Dr. King and Rabbi Heschel. It's not happening. We have to build something brand new. But I don't even know if that's possible. I don't know if everybody is up for that job. Because you know what? It's hard. Yeah. It's hard.
But you're doing it on the block. You have built something new. Yeah. The congregation on the corner. Yeah. And you're the rabbi there. Yeah. You've created something.
How do we scale that 1,000,000 times? Because we need that so much right now. Mm-hmm. But once again, I can only do things on a macro level. Yeah. It's so hard. On a micro level. Yeah. It's so hard to scale that. Yeah. And especially when so many people don't see a reason why we should. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Tamar's last point is something that I want to talk about a little bit. This is actually the second film that I made with and about Tamar. The first one is called Being Ready for Me, and it came out in 2020. We had a premiere in New York in January of 2020, and then about 6 weeks later, the pandemic hit. And that first film is really focused on Tamar's activism and on the community that she created on 75th and Stewart. And when we would do Q&As, and they were all virtual, but we would do Q&As and people would say, like, you know, the work that you're doing in Chicago is incredible. How do we replicate it? And my thought was, well, all you need to do is put 50 Tamar Manassehs on 50 different corners in Chicago and you fix it. And I think we have the same issue here. Like, how do you scale something that is so dependent on the force of one person's personality? And we have to be able to figure this out because the stakes are too high to just say, like, well, the two communities have drifted apart, and yeah, it was great when everybody sang Kumbaya, literally sang Kumbaya together in the 60s in the civil rights movement, but now, you know, upward mobility in the U.S. is unfortunately predicated on, more often than not, on race. And the Jews who moved out of the south side of Chicago, the west side, and other neighborhoods like that around the country were afforded opportunities that, unfortunately, many black people were not. So the two communities have drifted so far apart that they almost never encounter one another. And you know, I remember going to a bat mitzvah party not long after we finished filming the first film. And the next morning I called Tamar because I was really upset that the only black people I saw at the bat mitzvah party were the dancers and the people who were DJing. And that had never occurred to me before. It never occurred to me before. And I thought, why is it that these are the only black people that these Jewish kids are exposed to? And that needs to change.
Absolutely, and I think what I heard in both of your answers and also through this movie is that, one, we don't have to be rich, we don't have to be famous, we have to care.
That's it.
So that's the first step. Like, we got to care about the other humans that we are around, right? But then also, I think you said this in the movie as well, Rabbi, that the way to bridge the gap between white folks and black folks is through the black Jews.
Yeah.
And so finding the communities and being with communities and actually doing the work of relationship, like you were showing us in the movie, right? To sit down and have those hard conversations. You demonstrated, I think, the ways in which we can make this happen across the country. That it's not just on you. That you've given us a fantastic example of what we can be doing. Did y'all pick that up in the film? Or was that just me? Y'all pick that up? There were some key learnings in this movie for generations will hopefully be healed because of the work that you started.
I personally think, well, I learned a lot of this. I got a lot of this. I mean, being a student rabbi for 13 years, you have a lot of time to observe other rabbis, right?
Uh-huh.
So I grew up, the temple that I grew up in, Beth Shalom, is very diverse. Mm-hmm. And so Rabbi Finay, who is here, who's in the movie, and Rabbi Yehuda is with him as well, the one who is a mix between Luther Vandross and Barry White.
And the beautiful voice you were hearing.
But I learned about how important diversity was from him.
Yeah.
And how important it is to make people feel comfortable when they come into our house.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it became that I pour everything into that. Like, that's the first thing I do when you come to the block, is I want to make you feel as comfortable as I possibly can. Yeah. Don't ever.
Absolutely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, there's no, when you go to the block, there's magic, and everybody does feel good, and everybody does feel happy, and everybody does feel comfortable, and nobody looks at you and says, like, what are you doing here?
Yeah, it is. I think we have to just get past being uncomfortable with each other.
Yeah.
And first, we have to be uncomfortable with each other to get to a point where we're not that way anymore. And that doesn't happen overnight, but it's something that we have to keep trying and keep trying and keep trying and keep doing and keep doing. But you can't do that just having black people come talk at your temple during Black History Month or, Dr. King's birthday.
Yeah.
This is something that you have to commit to wanting to do. Because right now, as I said in the movie, we have the same monster under the bed.
Yes.
And in the 60s, black folks understood that, and so did Jews. And somewhere, at some point, the monster became our friend.
Mm-hmm.
But he was never our friend. It was never our friend.
Never ever.
For us, integration wasn't necessarily good, and for Jews, segregation wasn't good. Sure, no black people live in your neighborhood, but it didn't just lock me out, it locked you in.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And which one is worse? Especially now. It's fear everywhere. And we're locked into these little spaces. It didn't have to be that way though. But the American disease did that. That's what racism will do. And if we're not constantly fighting that, it's constantly beating us.
Yeah. Yeah. There is so much to.
I know, I'm not just hot, right? I'm also smart. It's great, right?
I'm appreciating the download that I am getting. And obviously, but I don't know, y'all appreciating this download again. I wanted to hear about a book that you have written, and I was hoping to you would share that with the people.
So proud of my book. So what I really do, what I do every day, other than, this is part of healing the world and fixing the cracks. I actually have developed a curriculum for kids, a gun safety curriculum. And we are hoping that this is what we use to stop school shootings and mass shootings. It's an early detection system, if you will, that we've kind of put together. And that detection system has started with a book called Run, Run, Run for our preschoolers. As in, see a gun, run, run, run. And so it is a very Dr. Seussical approach to something that's very serious. When I wrote the book, it was, I looked and there were all of these books for 3-year-olds about trauma. A 3-year-old doesn't know what trauma is, but they know a cat shouldn't have a gun.
Yeah.
So that is the way that we want to teach them, because nobody is talking to our kids. We're doing active shooter drills, but we can't teach them about guns. We can't teach them about gun safety. We have to change the way that we can't just legislate our way out of every problem in this country. We have to educate our way out of it too. Yeah. And I'm so proud that it was a Jewish woman that wrote the book and a Jewish woman, Laura Frisch, that illustrated it. So I really love that Jewish women are saving the world. Look at us.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So what is the name of the book and how can we get it?
Run, Run, Run. It is on Amazon and Barnes & Noble. Hanukkah is coming. There are 8 days. And you got a lot of grandkids and, nieces, nephews. Just, go crazy.
All right. Run, run, run. All right. And the one last thing I wanted to ask you about, and I know that there might be some questions out here, so if our folks have questions, get ready. You in the film, at your ordination, you mentioned the new education fund in honor of your Uncle David. And I wanted to know, is there ways, I know you're going to talk about masks and donate to masks, but I wanted to know more about that fund and whether or not folks can donate to that.
If you go to our website, ontheblock.org, you can donate there. And actually now we're actually flirting with starting our own Jewish day school.
Fantastic.
So we're super excited about that.
That's amazing.
After all, we have this kid that needs to go to Jewish day school, and clearly he can't go to campus, so there's that.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right. You're starting something new.
Exactly.
Hallelujah. Give it up for Do we have any questions from out in the crowd, in the kahal here? There's one in the back here.
Hi, good evening, welcome. It's just, I've had a goosebumpy evening, or bumpy goose, whatever, you know what I'm talking about. I have a couple of questions about your journey as a student rabbi. And maybe I missed this point, but you kept saying you went to the academy.
Yeah.
What academy was this that you went to?
The Academy of the International Israelite Board of Rabbis.
Okay. And that was
And this would be the dean of that academy, and this is the president of the academy.
welcome. So my question has to do with when you got smicha, when you were ordained. And I understand there was hesitation. I wanted to ask the rabbi, if I could, what was the pivotal moment of the decision to ordain her individually?
Pivotal moment.
Here, I can give him this one.
The pivotal moment was essentially waiting for a very long time. And I wanted to bring a promise to fruition. I told her that if she studied, if she did all of the coursework and the requirements, that I believe that our community would have moved in under the 13 years. And we would have actually been able to get this accomplished. To her, it was a sacred, all of my words, you know, we do Code Nidra, and we talk about forgive me for this and forgive me for that and forgive me for what I haven't done here. But I never asked for forgiveness for not seeing this young woman achieve what she had worked so very hard for. And I felt obligated, very much so, to help that process be completed.
That was beautiful. Thank you. I forgive you, by the way.
It's for year. 13 years ago.
Any other questions from the Kahal? Yes.
So this question isn't really related to...
I think we should get you a mic so everybody can hear you. My former life, I was an audiologist, and I want to make sure everybody can hear well.
So this question isn't really related to Judaism, but is entirely related to Chicago. My brother just graduated from the University of Chicago, so for the past couple of years I've been visiting him in Hyde Park a few times a year. And one thing I was always curious to, and I was just wondering if you knew anything about this, does the University of Chicago create tension in the neighborhood of Hyde Park, and do the residents around Hyde Park view it negatively, positively? That was something I was always curious to. And
Wait, hold on. No, I don't have anything to say about the University of Chicago. Nope. It is a great institution. I love the University of Chicago. That's all I got to say. So glean what you will from that. Okay?
Brad, did you have something to say about that? I was playing. I don't get nobody in trouble.
Following up with the question about the Board of Rabbis and the Academy, since your ordination, have they accepted you? Has there been any improvement, and I will use the word improvement, in acceptance of you and women in Judaism from them?
It has. You know what? I was angry for a while until I realized that I needed to do exactly what I was doing. I didn't need to finish in 5 years. I didn't need to finish in 7 years. I needed to finish exactly when I did. Because I had to develop an identity. I had to understand what kind of rabbi I wanted to be, right? And I see that when people finish in 5 years or 6 years or whatever, there is a lot of pressure to be like the ones who came before you, who ordained you. But I didn't have that pressure. I was able to become the kind of rabbi that I wanted to become. I was able to grow into this. And if they had done it a minute earlier, this might not have happened. And I had to think about, for so long, they weren't accepted. They weren't accepted by the Jewish community. So I mean, hey, isn't that kind of, so it's gonna take them a little bit longer to accept women in the rabbinate, because it took so long for them to be accepted as part of the rabbinate, the mainstream Judaism. So sometimes we are what we learn. We do what we learn. And I do, if they wouldn't be here tonight if we weren't moving forward, if we weren't growing. So I appreciate both of you coming all the way here from Chicago and New York. I really love the direction that we're going in. I mean, I look forward to seeing other women or other men, just anybody who wants to, they love this, and this is what they want to commit their lives to, look forward to seeing them in the academy.
All right.
You look scared. You were like, oh, okay.
Thank you. What guidance would you give to synagogues who really are struggling to figure out how to move the process forward in learning and understanding and becoming that much more aware and inclusive in outreach?
First things first, I'm going to say you should probably invite me. That's thing A. But thing B, I would say be aware of who's coming into your congregation. Be aware. Don't avoid them. Embrace people when they come in. I was at a synagogue earlier this year, and a young black woman came up to me, and she was whispering when she was talking to me. And I was like, I mean, why are we whispering? Like, service is over, what are we whispering for? Like, what's happening right now? And she was saying, I feel uncomfortable here sometimes, and it was really great seeing a black woman be a rabbi here. I hardly ever see black people be Jews here at all. And I really appreciate you being here. Can we keep in touch? And she was whispering when she was saying those things to me. And then I realized she was whispering because she didn't want to offend the white people that were around her. But they should have understood already. She feels out of place. So you might have to go the extra mile to make sure you embrace her, that you connect with her, that you don't avoid her. When I can remember at Beth Shalom when the first Hispanic family arrived, and I remember thinking, what are they doing here? That was the most un-Jewish thing I ever did, because how dare I question. They came in with the, what did you say, a kippah and a prayer book and a tallis? Those were Jews, and how dare I question that? And I've really learned a lot. Seeing now the service is not just in English and in Hebrew, it's also in Spanish. Because everybody didn't understand, but now they do, they feel comfortable there. So these are the things that we have to be cognizant of. When people come here, we have to make them, we have to embrace them, we have to see them. We have to ask them, what can we do? You know, what can we do to get you to come back again? How can we help you? I think it's that easy. But I mean, I'm saying it's that easy, but it's very difficult for a lot of people. But that's the first step. That's that discomfort that I was saying we would have to feel before we got to a place of being comfortable.
I think that's absolutely right, but I also think that it's easier to say it than to do it, especially because most synagogues are, when you see somebody who you don't know, you immediately get suspicious of them. And obviously, we're in a very difficult time right now as Jews in America, so we're living a little bit in fear. So when somebody comes into your synagogue, black, white, whatever, who is not recognized by anybody in the community, then immediately you wonder who they are. And you know, just to tell a very quick anecdote, when we filmed the first film, people would always ask me, like, did you ever feel uncomfortable or scared on the block? And my answer was, I was never made to feel anything but welcome on the block. And the only time that when I was filming in Chicago, that I felt a little bit uncomfortable was when we filmed outside of the synagogue in Skokie Valley. And here I was with the cameraman, and both of us are white and we're Jewish, and I don't think we look very threatening. Do I look threatening?
AF.
A little, yeah. And some woman came up to me and said, "What are you doing?" I said, we're filming a documentary. And I thought she said, "What's a documentary?" So I said, "Well, a documentary is the She said, "I know what a documentary is. I want to know what documentary you're filming." I said, "Oh, we're making a film about this woman, Tamar Manasseh." And she said, "Did you talk to the rabbi about filming on her?" I said, "Yeah, I went inside and I gave the rabbi's name to this woman. I said, I spoke to Rabbi so-and-so, and he said, sure, absolutely, go out and film." And then she said, "So if I went inside and asked him, he would say that you talked to him?" I said, "Yes, go and ask the rabbi." And again, we weren't threatening looking, we were only filming outside the synagogue, but they didn't know who we were, so automatically they were suspicious of us. And I think that that's something that we have to overcome.
It takes us back to sure, it keeps us out, but it locks you in.
Yes.
So we always have to be careful with that. There has to be some happy medium there where we're not locked in and we're not keeping people out.
And the other part,
that's the hard part.
The other part of that is many synagogues have security now, and security people interact differently with people of color than they do with white people. So white people automatically think that security people are there to help them, and black people don't necessarily think that. So that's just another obstacle. It's not insurmountable, it's understandable. It's just something that has to be overcome.
But I think this is a good conversation because I think a lot of people don't know that these obstacles do exist.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that was a great question.
Yeah. We have a question in the back here, on the side.
Hi. So I seen something when you were talking about your son, when he was going to school with the principal and things like that. And then how long was you guys dealing with this since was it like elementary, middle, like how long?
Oh gosh. You know what? It's just the administration of the school had changed, right? So, and the ideology had changed from when I was there to when my kids were there. And it was never an ideal situation. It was never perfect. I mean, I had the principal compare my daughter to Hitler one time. And she proudly told me that she did it. But my daughter had friends there. This is the only school she'd ever been to. And it wasn't for her. It didn't affect her so much to the point where she said, "You know what, I don't want to be here anymore." She was in 8th grade. I'm about to graduate. And it was the way that they started doing the class trip to Israel after all the black kids graduated. It was the stuff it was a million different things with my son. But it got to the point where no, we can't do this anymore. Because now it's not me just trying to protect him from them. It's him trying to protect them from them himself. He came home one day and told me that a teacher in math class told him that slavery wasn't as bad as the Holocaust because, slaves were treated pretty good. Because the same way you wouldn't want to wreck your car, you wouldn't want to hurt your slaves. Now, how does a 7th grader in math class, how did this come up in math class? But how does your 7th grader argue slavery and the Holocaust? Your Jewish kid argued slavery and the Holocaust. And how dare you make him have to do that? How dare you? So, he just became there were just so many things. But we were in court for 3 months. And it was crazy because most of that happened during the holy season. We had to agree to not go to court on Yom Kippur. And the judge was like, "I don't get it. Like, why don't you want to come to court?" "Well, we can't come to court because it's Yom Kippur. We can't." But it was just something, and I told her, I said, boy, oh boy, this should be a hard day for you. And it showed him a lot of things about the world that he will never forget. And you see, it was very difficult for him, but you know who had it even worse than him? His white friends that were there. That's who had it worse. When he left and he didn't come back, and that's where his friends were, his friends didn't want to be Jewish anymore because they said, if you can treat black people this way, I don't want to be a Jew anymore. This is how Jews treat black people. That is what happened to the white kids that he was in class with. So it's a pox on everybody's house, right? And people don't understand the sarat of racism. It's on both sides of the wall.
That's right.
It's going to eat us both alive. So, I mean, I don't know. Did that answer your question? Because I went off on a tangent there. I realized I did. But that was good? Okay.
First of all, it's an honor and a privilege to be in your presence, all three of you, really. That movie was astonishing. All the credit to Mr. Rothschild. How are rabbinical schools from coast to coast educating their students about what you all stand for, especially RRC?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Because that's not my question.
That was your question?
That was your question.
Well, so what I'll say is that RRC is an American institution. And so it holds the same history as all American institutions. What I can say is that the people there are striving to be better, which is good. Our school is the first school in mainstream white Jewish America that has a black dean, a black woman dean, and a black Jewish woman dean. All right, she's a Bible scholar, Dr. Amanda Mbavi, and that was a big step for them, and a big step for the rabbinic education of our school. We have the most black students at RRC than any other college, except for the Israelite board, because all of their students are black. Okay.
It's the HBCU.
Exactly. Exactly. Absolutely. We started a black student union because there was 4 of us, and that to me is almost crazy. But I was like,
if there
we
are
need
4
to.
of you, there should be 2 black Jewish students.
That's true. Yeah, the one that we don't go to. But what I'll say is that, and Rabbi Frazier and I we were just talking about this, that as of today, there are no black pulpit rabbis in this country outside of black congregations. So
where's the one now?
No, I'm saying, well, wait.
Gotta correct you.
There's one.
There's one.
So proud of them.
Oh, tell me where.
A synagogue in Newark, New Jersey, Al Shalom, had an enormous fight, and they're conservative shul, and they said, we want to hire this young African American as our rabbi.
Yeah.
When was this?
Earlier this year.
Just earlier this year.
Okay, so it just happened.
Earlier this year.
I'm about to say this is new news.
So here's the crux of it. The RA called and said, you can't do that. We have a process. And we'll give you somebody that, he said, we don't want it. Keep whoever you got there. We're going in our own direction. And if we have to quit the rabbinic assembly, we will. The conservative movement, we will. And now he's working there full time as their rabbi and spiritual leader from the Israelite Academy.
Praise.
Exactly.
Give it up for them.
So it's all about conditions and circumstances that you find yourself in.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you are in a position, you don't care what color the person is that can really help your condition.
Yeah.
You don't ask the doctor, if he's qualified, he's working for a medical institution, so he got to be qualified. You have a condition, so you want the doctor to attend to your condition. our condition in this country is the condition of racism and anti-Semitism. But you see, this is my last word.
2 minutes, Rabbi.
2 minutes. I was at the rally on Sunday. Tuesday.
Yes, sir. It's a long way.
It's a long week already.
It felt like Sunday.
Felt like Sunday.
Yes.
When we say that the black Jewish community should be used by our white Jewish brothers and sisters as a conduit into the broader African American community, we mean that. Because I saw a whole lot of Jews, maybe 3 or 4, 5, 6 black people. And they said in the paper that there was 290,000 Jews. And some of those black people that I did see were Christian. I knew he was there, so I knew that he was Jewish. And myself. And so you got to build bridges because we're gonna need to have friendship and understanding and the convenience of not just getting together when something is messed up, that I'll have you over for tea and coffee. We have to develop that sense of well-being before we have issues, not when the issue is out of hand. So that's it.
Thank you. Look at you.
I love being corrected to know that there is one.
It is.
There is one. Praise.
But hopefully once you graduate, you'll be number 2.
Maybe so. Maybe so. I'm sure we're probably over time, but I just want to say one other thing, and maybe this will prompt a last word from the two of you. You said in the film, I wrote down a whole bunch of quotes when I saw this, and I appreciated.
I talk a lot.
The Torah that flows through you is fantastic. I just want you to know that. You said what the world sees as problems, Jews see as cracks. You got to get your spackle and go to work.
Yeah.
I want you to leave us with what spackle do we need to get, or what crack are we seeing right now that you just leave us on a note of whatever you want to leave us on. But I feel like that was a great quote.
It is this crack of misunderstanding and the idea that we don't know how much we really should rely on one another. Our grandparents had it right. They got it right. But we got it all wrong some kind of way. And the thing is, at least we know that. That is a crack. Now, go to work fixing it. And it may take, 2 generations outside of the civil rights movement? It may take another 2 generations to get us back on track. But at least now, that's just spackle knife. We know what it is. Because if we don't have conversations like this, nobody knows what to call it. Nobody knows what it is. But somewhere, somebody has answers. It is up to each of us to take these answers out and take conversations, share these conversations with your friends and with your family. And these ideas, spread them. That's how you begin to cover the cracks. That's how you begin to fill them in. Because it's important that we do. So I think the crack, that's how I would go. That's what I'm thinking. I think we're going about filling a huge crack right now. You thinker?
It's really hard to follow, Tamar. I just want to echo what you had said earlier when you were talking about your rabbinical school and how they're striving to be better. And I feel like that's such a beautiful sentiment, that's what I want to leave everybody thinking about, that we should all always be striving to be better.
Not being imperfect.
Except for you.
Let us thank again Rabbi Tamar Manasseh and Brad Rothschild for coming here to Philadelphia